Good afternoon, Keller Williams, Milwaukee Southwest. How are you doing today? Woo! I love the energy. I love all the people. It's so great to see everybody today. I would like to introduce our guest gonger, Chris Ruskowitz. She's our gonger today, and she's here to talk a little bit about Milwaukee homeless vets, who are also our lunch provider for the day. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
Awesome, thank you so much. This is Debbie. Can you join me, please? Thank you all for being here. This is the third year in a row that I have sponsored lunch to benefit the Milwaukee Homeless Veterans Initiative. So I appreciate every one of you being here and helping them out. They are an amazing organization that my husband and I have gotten involved in, I don't know, 6, 7 years now. They truly are angels. And I'm gonna let Debbie tell their story because I will cry if I tell you everything. So come on up here. Debbie Buchanan is the Executive Director for the Milwaukee Homeless Veterans Initiative.
Two pieces of pizza, so I'm messy, but thank you for having us here. Every year it's a pleasure to come out. Every time we come, we see new faces. So it gives us an opportunity to share our mission and then remind our old friends that are in here what we do and how much your past support has meant to our organization. So quick, fast, and dirty, because I know you've got a busy agenda today. But we have been around for about 16 years now, and our organization started actually with the help of Vietnam veterans that were actually going out into the community, looking for homeless veterans, looking for veterans that were at risk, to connect them not only to benefits that they probably hadn't accessed in the past, but to find a way to get them housed safely and be able to stabilize them within the communities they live. We still operate in that fashion to this day where we're out doing outreach. We're still going to the same daytime shelters, some of the same well-lit parking lots, connecting with veterans to get them connected to services and to housing. I've been with the organization now for 7 years. I served in the Army. Kiana is a spouse of a Navy veteran, and about 60% of our employees are veterans. Today, we are facing a lot of things that are going on with veterans, those that we have had success in being housed because of the economy, crime, mental health, all of those other things. Our numbers have literally tripled. We have 6 core programs, including an emergency food pantry, and we have been averaging in the last 3 months 200 plus veterans a month coming in for services that is not including their family members. So if you lump all of the children and the spouses that we're taking care of, we're easily taking care of 400 to 500 lives per month. There is a sense in the community that if you served in the military, you're automatically qualified for benefits. I know when we met Chris and Gary, they were astonished. Well, Gary, you know, that you have to serve a certain amount of days on active duty to qualify for services. So we had a lot of our veterans that come out, whether they served in the National Guard, in the reserves, they are not eligible for those types of benefits. So our grassroots nonprofit organization is able to catch those veterans, stop them from falling through the cracks, and be able to serve them as any other veteran that would be eligible for benefits. We started our mission in the city of Milwaukee. expanded through Milwaukee County, and now we serve all of southeastern Wisconsin. The support that we get from all of our donors is very critical for us to operate. We do not receive federal funding. We do not ask the government for funding so that we're not restricted on what that veteran should look like that we serve. Our furnishings for Heroes program is how we go out to provide all of the things that our veterans need. So when we do the spring cleaning with Chris every spring, that is important to us because all of those furniture donations, household items down to the kitchen can openers, all of those things are taken to the vets. We have a program that serves specifically women because women veterans come out with a different set of needs than our male counterparts. A woman that served in the military is 3 times likely to attempt suicide than a woman who's never served. Many women that have served in the military have had a negative experience and therefore they end their careers early. And it's just a different path that they take once they come back home. So our woven program is very critical because we're able to care for her needs in a safe environment. I could go on and on about what we do, but I'm not gonna do that, but I am gonna share a story with you. A couple of weeks ago, we had a veteran that came into our doors for the first time. Very young, 29, 30 years old, got married at a very young age and had 5 children. The mother recently went through a mental breakdown. She moved the kids out of state. He had been fighting all summer to get his children home. He walked into our door with 5 children the other day that had absolutely nothing. The oldest child, a boy, is 12 years old. The youngest child is a 7-month-old little boy. Kiana had to immediately get the baby crib, get the stroller, get the car seat, get everything that this dad needed for his children. Our Veterans Resource Post that we have on site, when you donate clothes and shoes and children's items, we're able to then turn around and let those families come in and shop for free to access those things that they need. We have a lot of families that are coming to our doors with absolutely nothing. We have veteran families that are living in their vehicles because they choose not to give up their service animal to go into a shelter. So then we will take that family and put them in a hotel or motel, wherever we can get them while we're looking for housing. So I appreciate the opportunity every time I have a chance to tell the community what we're doing on a daily basis. There are only 10 of us that work there. We have a small amount of volunteers, but we touch many, many lives, many veterans' lives here in southeastern Wisconsin. And we do that because of your giving. When you call us and say that you have a kitchen table, that kitchen table is then gonna go into a home of a veteran who has absolutely nothing. So thank you, Chris, for allowing me to come in and share. We have some brochures and things that we'll leave behind for you. We make it very easy for you to donate because you call us and we come to you to pick up those donations. Please watch our social media. We put our special needs out there, and you're all welcome to come and take a tour of our operations. Whenever you're in the neighborhood, we're right on 63rd and National near the VA hospital in West Dallas.
Okay, one thing I want to. She works. She gets a call at midnight that the sheriff's department has found a homeless vet living in their car in a park and ride. They get up and go get them, and they make sure they're safe and they put them somewhere. But what's really amazing is that, number one, we have a very special opportunity because we have buyers and sellers who want to get rid of furniture. And they say, I just want to give it away to whoever's going to come pick it up. Well, guess who comes picks it up for free? And these vets should, first of all, they shouldn't be homeless, but they don't look for help. I'm the mom of a 19-year active duty RB Lieutenant Colonel Special Operations. I know what it's like to have family members. Canada's husband, there's so many people that need help. The other piece of it that I think is really important for us to know, not just how we can help, because we can just connect our buyers and sellers with them, but they're also connected with others in the community, counselors counselors from the Department of Workforce Development to help them fill out a job application, help them create a resume to find a job. This is like all encompassing, not just we're gonna get you off of the streets,
Right.
throw you in an apartment and then leave you to your own devices. They really care about making sure these vets are taken care of, that they can find jobs, that they have food, that they have a bed, that they have a can opener.
Right.
So we have a really unique opportunity to help. So if anytime anybody has anything, if buyers, sellers that want to get rid of stuff, call me. Because I know who to contact to make sure that your buyers or sellers will get a priority pickup. Because we know we have deadlines. It's a week before closing and there's like, I have a bed and I have this and I have that. I can call and get that stuff picked up, which helps our buyers and sellers as well. So I appreciate all of you being here. Thank you very much. And this is quite the amazing lady. So you really get a brochure, because they do a lot.
Any vets in this room besides me?
Yeah, we do.
Thank you for your service. Thank you so much.
I am not a vet, but my father, my grandfather, my, most recently, my nephew just, got out of the Marines. So, the work that they do is amazing. And the other thing that I know is if you are struggling, the best way to get out of your own hole is to go help somebody else. So thank you for your help. And let's all connect, right? I love that. So we do have a great big agenda today. Charlie Stelle is here to have a conversation facilitated for us with
Can you go
us.
back
Yeah,
for
for
everyone to
sure.
scan?
I'm going back. I'm trying to go back. Y'all know me. Give me a minute. We'll get there. There we are. Click here to donate for the Milwaukee Homeless Veterans Initiative. And also, did you like the pizza?
No.
Are you full? Great. There's where you can donate. All of that is going to the Milwaukee Homeless Veterans Fund. So, all right, Charles. Come on up. Nice. Okay, so we have a special guest this morning. Charlie's gonna have a conversation with Peter Zaroff, and he'll introduce and do the whole thing. But we wanted to be on the front lines of the conversation that's happening around our industry right now, and the lawsuit that we are all hearing about. So I'm gonna hand this over to you. Thank you for being here. You guys take notes and be listening, okay?
Zaroff, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yep, 1 sec. I'm just gonna switch the view quick. Give me 1 sec. Beautiful. You guys can see Peter?
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Love it. All right, so, well, interestingly enough, I was sitting here last week Tuesday at noon. And I get an email, or I get a text in the middle of the room that the jury verdict came down as it relates to this big commission lawsuit in Missouri. And then I know there've been some questions, and I know, in my opinion, some people in our industry have prematurely spoken on it, okay? With just crazy takes. If you wanna have a more of a conversation about that, let's go grab a beer and I'll give you a real unfiltered. But here's what I tell you. First things first. As I've said before and said many times before, in the past previous weeks. We have to control the controllables. A lot of what's going on externally is outside of our control. So what we have to do is we have to take and understand what is going on, and then how do we parlay that into making sure that we're making good decisions, proactive decisions, and being on the forefront of change, not being impacted by change, right? The second thing, what I'll tell you as it relates very specifically to this and how this shapes our industry moving forward, is this concept of, if you were to ask me where I will be or where you will be or what we will be in the next 5 years from where we are today, I'd say I have no freaking clue, but I have an idea of where we'll end up. The problem is I don't have the blueprint as to how we'll get there. And where I'm leading with this is to say, I don't know what the next move 100 moves from now is. I know what the next move that's right in front of me. And that if I make good decisions and I'm proactive to change on the move that's right in front of me, when you compound good decisions about the next right move, move after move after move, you will ultimately get to your end game destination, right? And so it's premature on a case like this that's very existential and very macro and focused to say, this is what's gonna happen to the industry today. Like, that's really premature, right? But I know what we can do today to help you prepare for the conversation as to where the industry is going, and then set you guys up for success so that we make good move after good move after good move after good move. And when we compound good moves, we ultimately end up at our end game. Make sense? Cool. The other piece of this is knowing the right question is better than knowing the right answer. So as it relates to this case and what it means for our industry, knowing the right question is, what do I need to do versus this is what's going to happen, is probably more applicable to how we serve our clients at the highest level. You feel me on that? So with that, I'm gonna introduce Peter Zaroff. For those of you who have not met Peter Zaroff, that's a good thing. Peter Zaroff is our in-house counsel on retainer who helps us mitigate risk. Whether it's a sticky transaction, whether it's brokerage issues with DSPS, GMAR, anything that could create potential risk, we loop in Peter Zaroff. And Peter represents 6 other brokerages in the state of Wisconsin, all with Wisconsin-related brokerage law. Cool? So, Peter, you and I have talked a lot about this. Kind of give these guys a cliff notes from a legal opinion, legal view. Where are we today as it relates to what they should be paying attention to or how this impacts them?
All right, so I think everyone knows we're talking about this lawsuit that came down, Sitzer Burnett versus NAR and others, and Keller Williams, about it, well, exactly a week ago. And where we are is that lawsuit was an antitrust case against the National Association of Realtors, Keller Williams, and more than a half a dozen other major brokerages, claiming, really attacking cooperative commissions and claiming that their sellers, all sellers, were damaged because of the model of cooperative commissions. And the result was a huge settlement for a couple of them, RE/MAX and a couple others, and a way huger verdict against Keller Williams, the National Association of Realtors, Berkshire Hathaway, and others. And what we don't know is what's next, what if the judge is going to do more. Right now, it's a $1.78 billion judgment that could be tripled. And there could be injunctive relief, meaning the judge could order additional sanctions or changes in what we do moving forward as a company or an industry. And that's what we don't know, and we're trying to read tea leaves on. But the important thing is to understand that any changes are indirect at this point. They'd be a ripple effect or indirect, because this was a case in Missouri, a federal case in Missouri, and we live in Wisconsin and are governed by Wisconsin law and Wisconsin statutes and cases. But there are dozens of copycat cases on the way. There's one already filed. So we expect more cases, we expect more fallout, and that's what we're trying to adjust to, is what do we do next?
And Peter, just to clarify for the group, because I think this is important to hear directly. Cooperative compensation, as it stands today, was actually not what was deemed illegal. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. Well, so in a case like this, nothing is necessarily deemed illegal necessarily. It's an attack based on antitrust law and seeking damages. What they said was, so far, is that the practice of the associations and the brokerages of allegedly colluding and conspiring to either offer cooperative compensations or work through that led to higher commissions and damaged sellers. And so the ruling doesn't necessarily make it illegal. And we don't know that could long-term be an eventual result, is that cooperative commissions are either modified or eliminated, but we don't think that's where it's necessarily going. But it definitely didn't do that yet. Right now, what it did was awarded damages, and we're waiting for the next shoe to fall. And one thing that you'll hear a lot about is the NAR has already said they're going to appeal, and we think Keller Williams is going to appeal. Appeals don't take 2 to 6 weeks or 2 to 6 months. They take 2 to 6 years or more to run their course. And in that time, there could be a favorable ruling for us. There could be a settlement, which is probably likely at some point, a global settlement, meaning a settlement that gets rid of all cases in the world and settles everything. And how those play out, that's that's not now, that's not soon, it's gonna take a lot of time.
And talk too a little bit around, what you you and I have had a lot of conversations and working through the teams with Sarah Papp here in New Berlin around what we plan to change from a standpoint of how we disclose certain items, how we discuss compensation on both sides. What are some of the things that we're working on that also is being directed by the way in which that we legally interpret the way some of the other companies have settled that would satisfy risk mitigation, like moving forward and being proactive?
Sure, so the best we can do is follow the guidance. I joke about the mothership. Well, the mothership is ultimately Keller Williams, KWRI and the NAR and the WRA for us, the Wisconsin Realtors Association. And their guidance is really informed by what RE/MAX and a couple other defendants did to settle. And in their settlement, they not only agreed to a lower, they agreed to about $138 million in damages, and they agreed to make certain changes in their practices. One of those changes was not to eliminate cooperative commissions. It was to be more transparent and open about it. So the way we read this, that we being the industry, the WRA, the NAR, is that moving forward, we're going to have to be better at communicating and more transparent. And so that involves some new disclosures and forms to be more transparent about and open with our sellers about what are we charging for commissions, how much is it, and that it's negotiable. Being more transparent about what a cooperative commission is and how much it is, and that too is negotiable. That none of it is our set or standard commissions, because that's the opposite of negotiable. And then working through internal policies so that we make sure that if we're telling consumers things are negotiable and that this is how it works, that actually matches our internal policies. And education, so that we're both educating you guys as agents to be experts on how to communicate this and how to not just communicate what it costs, but what your value is to justify that cost, which is something you should already be good at, but is even more important if you are now having to have a very strict conversation about negotiable. And then educating the consumer about why it might be in their interest to either use a cooperative commission, not eliminate it, or whichever model you're using. But that education component is going to be a big factor over the next coming months and years.
Yeah, and for perspective, guys, in 2019, in the Seattle market, greater Seattle area, they actually proactively took a step that, depending on how you read it, and I may not be using the right phrase, so Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, basically decoupled the commission to make it into one, so that as a listing agent, you had to have a compensation discussion around what it is that you service and what it is that you offer. And Seattle made that change effectively in 2019. There was a study that came out about that through this whole lawsuit that I read recently that then took a look at commission rates as it relates to the impact, the decision they made in 2019 to decouple it. I don't know if that's the right term legally, disclosure. And yet, how did it impact commissions through mid 2023? Anybody have a guess as to what the impact was?
Commissions went up.
They basically remained the same. Now, the outcome to the study that they discussed in this paper I read recently was that listing agents got better at their craft in articulating their value proposition and the value to offering cooperative compensation. And buyers agents got incredibly, they professionally improved a ton because the buyer presentation became as important or more important than the listing presentation and helping articulate their value in a way in which that if they had to offset their commission rate because of something that was not offered on the other side, that they worked through that on the front side. And basically the premise behind the paper is that Seattle's market, in their interpretation, the agent population improved, and therefore because they improved at their craft and skill, compensation as it relates to transactions actually did not go down. And so to Peter's point, as it relates to some of the things that we need to do, yes, there's going to be some form language that will be updated. Yes, there's going to be some compliance things that we'll have to do. Yes, the days walking in with listing presentations or listing paperwork already pre-filled out with your commission rates, like not going to be advised moving forward. And yet we're going to have to be able to articulate our value proposition in order to justify what our value is. Peter, did I misstep or say anything?
I think that's exactly right. It's, because your commission is what you earn in exchange for the value. So if it's negotiable, explaining that value is so much more important now.
And the best part about it is, about our value or our business model, we're perfectly set up to help educate you, inform you, be proactive to change and help work through that, to stay on the front side of conversations versus reactively acting to something on the backside. Cool?
Yeah.
All right, so Peter, you know, KW agent goes to list a house this week and someone said, hey, sweet, I heard I don't have to offer compensation on the other side. I only want to take it at 2.5%, 3%, 3.6, whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. Peter, how would you legally advise our group as to how to handle that conversation?
Well, number one is I want to be clear with anyone that nothing has changed from what our previous practice was, is that commissions have always been negotiable, including a cooperative commission. And there's a value to a cooperative commission that has been in place for 100 years in our industry, and understanding how to explain that value, which is you might offer nothing to that buyer agent, but by offering it, you know, there's not just the issue of incentivizing agents to show homes, which is how a lot of consumers look at it. You're also essentially financing that buyer's ability to see your home. And so if you're not going to offer a cooperative commission, you may have fewer buyers able to even view your home or put a competitive offer on your home. So that cooperative commission has been a way to support our industry and support the purchase price that you probably want to get. And one of the ironic things about this lawsuit is that it was sellers who were suing, when one of their allegations was that it led to, yes, higher commissions, they allege, but also to higher purchase prices. Well, that's good for sellers, a higher purchase price. That's what they should want. And so I think having that conversation that a cooperative commission is not an evil thing. It's just important that everyone understands its value and the benefit that it has.
For sure. And Peter, there's been a lot of conversation as it relates to those that chose to settle and the strategies they implemented in settling. And, you know, those of us sitting here at KW understand and know that they choose not to settle. What's kind of, from your vantage point of looking from afar into this and your legal opinion, you've shared with me your thoughts on that. Share with the group on like the difference between settling and choosing to see this thing through.
Right. So the settlement is much of anything. It's a financial, you know, loss mitigation function of, hey, we want to cap our losses. And so they did. They capped them in the hundreds of millions as opposed to the billions. But the choice not to settle by Keller Williams, Berkshire Hathaway, a number of others, and the National Association of Realtors was in part because of the feeling of the strength of their case and the fact that they were supporting the industry and you as agents to say this is a model that is not just legal. It's perfectly legal. It's been recognized for 100 years and it adds an enormous amount of value. So there is an argument that I think carries a lot of weight that by settling, I don't want to say, I mean, you're not abandoning necessarily, but you're not fighting for the industry in a way. And now the benefit of the settlement was they got away with a lower amount, and they got away with an agreement with those plaintiffs to make some relatively minor changes, which is mostly being better and providing those better disclosures. But, you know, the flip side is that they paid a lot of money and they sort of gave up on the case in a way. And so I think there's that argument of that, you know, Gary Keller testified with some great testimony, and so did the NAR, number of witnesses in support of the industry and of you in a way that would fight for something that makes a lot of sense. And, you know, and so there, you know, the settlement, you're going to hear a lot of people saying, well, gee, look at how smart those defendants were, those brokers for settling. And, you know, is there an argument they were smart? Maybe, but when this all settles out, in all likelihood, all the defendants are going to have a global settlement, because that's how these things usually settle out. It'll go to an appeal, and at some point, everyone will say, it's not worth all these attorney fees. It's not worth the risk to the plaintiffs, the sellers, that they might get nothing if the appeal succeeds. And it's not worth it to Keller Williams and NAR and the rest to risk the full judgment of, you know, $1.7 to $5 billion. So it's probably going to settle one way or another. The timing of that settlement, I'm not sure that's the, you know, that those were supporting our industry as much as the ones who didn't sell.
Yeah. So where we are, we have to make one good decision after the next, after the next, after the next. And every good decision we make over time will compound into and ultimately the end game we desire, which is to earn what you believe your value to be within the industry that we work in. And the steps that we plan to take on the forthright to that in terms of our local organization is some updated language as it relates to Addendum C, some updated training and education as it relates to how we have dialogues with our clients on both the buyer side and the seller side, and help you navigate what that looks like as in order for you to continue to earn the opportunity you desire to get out of this industry. Make sense? And where this goes, I don't know. I just know what we can do today, and what we do today will impact what we do tomorrow, and what we do tomorrow will impact what we do next week, and so on and so forth. And so I would embrace the change. I wouldn't be scared by it. Remember, the news is there to sell what? Fear, because fear sells what? Advertising, which is how they make money. And so you have to be pragmatic as to about where we are and where we're going, and you do have to put a little bit of the blinders on as it relates to what goes into your RAS, but we can't ignore it so that we can articulate what is going on, because it will come up, and we will have to articulate what our value is in order for us to justify what it is that we believe our value to be. And that no one is taking away your ability to earn an income. Make sense? Peter, anything else you have?
I think that's it.
Sweet. Any questions for Peter? This is usually not a quiet bunch. Yes, Mr. Shipley.
Oh, there's a hand.
So, just for the group, NAR as a lobbying organization took the top spot last year, $84 billion spent. How do we see NAR going forward after this? Because it seems to me like they've had changes of leadership earlier in the year due to sexual harassment suits. A good chunk of our dues were used to pay out for those suits. I don't see a path forward for NAR, because this is a big L for for all the money that they spent on lobbying. By comparison, a lot of people think that NRA, the National Rifle Association, spends a lot. They spent 13 billion last year. NAR spent 84 billion. Where's my money going? Facebook ads saying that's who we are is not enough. Some of them should have been done
Peter
going
looks
to a
like he might
lawyer,
have something.
a lawyer who could have defended this case a little better, I think. That's just my opinion.
I mean, one thing I can add to that, I can't speak to what the NAR has in reserves or their ability to pay, but one thing you can say to understand a judgment like this is that what this judgment represents is the outside boundaries of what might be owed. It's the cap. The judges can triple it, that's the maximum, but it can't go higher than that. And so, except that there are other lawsuits coming, but we've been named in this one. Every other brokerage in the country is named in others. The NAR is named in all of them. That's the cap. But that also means that, the plaintiffs don't want to bankrupt someone. They don't get paid if they do. They want to make it hurt enough that the plaintiffs, and more specifically, let's be honest, the plaintiffs' attorneys get paid. So they don't want to bankrupt them. They want to make this as painful as possible, which means it's going to settle in all likelihood, and it's going to settle for less. What that less is and how that plays out, we don't know.
And how that impacts our relationship as an organization with NAR.
We've already seen Remax decouple from NAR. Is KW next? I guess
Decoupling seems to be the word of the day.
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
It's like the 9th or 10th step. We're looking at the
Yeah.
next right step.
Yeah.
But more to come, for sure.
And I would say this, no matter what your opinions are of NAR or how they spend their money or who's in leadership there, there's value in the services that they provide. And you got to remember, that includes GMAR, that includes WRA. To an extent, a sidebar would be Metro MLS and NAR. So what that means for us moving forward, I'm not sure.
It's just a tough pill to swallow when it comes to dues time, which is like now.
I
think that's fair. That's all I'll say.
fair. That's why we live in a democracy. Yes, Mr. Max.
I completely understand everything, and if we have the appropriate disclosures in place, can we still run our business as a full-service brokerage after the negotiations, after the disclosures, and say, hey, this is what you're allowed to do, you are, feel free to continue shopping for realtors, but the way I run my business is this, and it is 6%. After all the disclosures, after they sign everything that we put into place, months down the road or whatever, is it appropriate to still have the stance of, I am a full service brokerage, I offer the value, and that is why I charge this much?
Yeah, Peter, you can speak to kind of, you can't do it for free.
Very much.
It wouldn't, well, but even legally, you can't do it for free. You can't offer your services with a legally binding contract for no compensation. So in a minimum, Peter, you have a better language or dialogue to this around the dollar, but yeah, there's a minimum standard for which you, just no different than you do today. Someone asks you to list their home for 1%. You say, no, I'm not willing to do that. There are people that are willing to do that, and that is negotiable, but it is not what I'm willing to do that for. So I wish you the best of luck.
I think
My
one thing that,
push tactic would be, that is the front conversation. It's if you're looking for a discount realtor, I'm not it. But you do have options, and we do give disclosures that is a realistic possibility for you.
Yeah.
But if you want the best, which is Keller Williams, not just me, you will be paying the premium.
Yeah,
And I just wanna make sure that I keep myself out of boiling hot water with that presentation.
Peter?
yeah, I think one of the things that, you hit it on the head is it's a full service brokerage service that we're providing. When we do offer an offer of compensation, because I think you still will offer that, there has to be a minimum. That's called consideration in contract law, which is you have to give something of value, consideration in exchange for something else. That's what makes it a binding contract. And that one of the conversations you can have in terms of the values you provide, whether it's a listing agent or a buyer's agent, is I'm providing access to your property for other buyers to see it. I'm providing showings. These are things that in an offer of compensation world, the buyer's agent's going to do a lot of those. If you expect me to now take those on because you're not going to offer compensation, I'm now doing more work, not less. I'm showing the house more. I'm giving buyers access for the inspection, the walkthrough, the appraisal. And if you want me to do even more work, we shouldn't be talking about a discount. We should be talking about a higher commission. And so I think, again, that all goes back to explaining in real detail the value proposition that you provide. I've heard people talk about, explain the 600 tasks that have to be done from the minute we meet until you close, and how many of those you want to do versus me. And if you can truly bore into those and show that value, it's going to be a lot easier to have that discussion of why your current commission or more is worth what they're willing to pay.
Yeah, last question, Tony. Tony Jean Greco, Minor Realty Group.
You are trained well.
So, this is a really good conversation, and I'm just curious of how this may impact us here locally at our market center, because I know we have had conversations about there being standards to percentages, right? A 5% total, and or we need to be able to offer that 2.4% with our internal policies. My question is, how does this, if at all, impact that?
Stay tuned.
Okay, how soon? Because if I have a listing appointment tomorrow and this conversation comes up, I think we all do need to know sooner than later what we want to adhere to standards. At the same time, I think we do need to know what we have the ability to negotiate if it is negotiable.
Peter?
Yeah, again, I mean, I'd reiterate, stay tuned, because we're all feeling this out and trying to figure it out. But again, going back to that, right now it's business as usual, smarter and better, and with the disclosures we're going to provide. And I know if you have a listing today or tomorrow, that may not feel very helpful, but nothing has yet changed in our market. It will be coming. But I would have told someone a week ago and a month ago, try to steer clear of standard or set commissions. And at the same time, as a brokerage, as a company, it does seem reasonable to say, I can't let all my agents charge just anything they want and race to the bottom. If everybody charged 1%, we're all going out of business together. There has to be some standards, and we're trying to feel out, how can we do that and what will that be?
That's
Yeah.
what we're exploring as it relates to what the standard is,
Right,
because to Peter's point, it'd be a race to the bottom.
exactly. And that's the thing is I understand and respect that. And I think but how do we
Well, and I do wanna
tiptoe
just,
around that?
yep, so one of the things, just so everybody knows, our policy has always been that if you are not going to offer a certain commission, that you talk to me, right? So there's always the opportunity to have that conversation. If you run into a conversation tomorrow where somebody challenges you and it's not a commission that you're interested in pursuing, have a conversation with me and we'll figure our way forward. So,
And I think the other objection handler to that, just from a client facing standpoint. Look, let's just call a spade. Last year is the percentage of total transactions, 94% of all transactions in the residential real estate space utilized a buyer's agent and seller's agent. It's the highest percentage in total going back to maybe 70 years. Okay? The highest number of why? Because what that tells you is consumers are willing to pay for their fiduciary responsibility in a complex transaction. The second piece of it is commission has always been negotiable. There's nothing that prevents anybody from hiring an attorney to sell the home. There's nothing that prevents them from selling it on their own. And yet when they do, the average FSBO gets 17% less than those represented. So yes, there is choices and you can make the choice. And here's why in which that I think that representation is important. And here's the value I offer. The standards piece as to what we will do as an organization, that is asking a question in real time that Peter and I have been talking about for the last week.
Yeah.
While we're working through a lot of other language, right?
Sure.
It's coming soon, Peter.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm not trying to put you on the hot seat.
No, it's all
This
good.
is why we're
Yeah.
doing this, because
Yeah.
we know that you guys are having real-time conversations right now, and absent this conversation, there's a lot of fear and uncertainty.
So just for clarity, for me, and I think for some, maybe the newer agents that have not been in this situation. Up until now and still moving forward until we explore some things, 5% is really without having
Tony.
a conversation.
I'm not gonna say a percentage.
Okay.
I'm gonna say the commission has always been negotiable
Uh-huh.
and that we have always had conversations as it relates to commission.
Okay.
And it would be inappropriate for me at this time to say what it is where we are and where it is that we're headed.
Okay.
Make
Fair
sense?
enough. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool? Group? Sweet. Peter, appreciate your time, my friend. Thanks for the
Thank you very much.
dialogue. I'm
Thanks,
sure I'll
Peter.
talk to you this afternoon.
All right, sounds great. Thanks for having me.
In about 20 minutes, awesome. Okay, so one of the things Peter talked about and Charlie talked about quite a bit was that there are two prongs to this, right? There's the watching what's happening out there in the legal environment and how we can make sure that we stay in front of that. The other piece is definitely education. And I wanted to share, we have next week, we'll be doing a panel conversation with some of the very best buyers agents in our office, talking about how they win with their buyers and how they think about their value proposition. So come and hear from these folks right here. I've got somebody on that panel who says they already share what the expectation of the cost is for buyers, should they have to pay it themselves, which we're not there yet, right? But it is an idea of understanding your value proposition. This morning, we had a conversation at conversation practice. And somebody said, you know, if it's between this and this range, I'm good, but if it goes below this, I'm gonna walk away from the offer. Well, that's because they understand the value that they are bringing to the buyer and they can articulate it really well. That's my goal for all of you, is that you can articulate your value, whether you're a listing agent or a buyer's agent. And we're gonna dive into this because there's I heard from a handful of people, buyer's market. So I don't know when we're gonna actually get into one, but the market is being a little funked up right now. So let's just be aware and be highly trained into what we do, okay? And that's what we do all across the world. We educate so that you can be the best for your clients. We have a great November training calendar. The primary thing that's on it is bold right now. Who are my bold people in the room? We're taking it right now. Look at this group. Congratulations, you guys. even if you are not in that room, something that's happening Monday, Ethan Sanchez and John Warren. Thank you guys for the work that you've done to bring our group together to do a Bold 100 every Monday. What they're doing right upstairs is they're reaching out to they're trying to have 100 conversations in a day, every Monday. Anyone in this market center can participate in that. And one of the things that makes you really good is time on task over time. So if you do that over and over again, your skill level rises. And then when somebody says, hey, would you work for me for 1%, you can walk away from that deal because you've got a deep pipeline.
If you
Okay.
so choose.
If you so choose, right? Thank you, Charlie.
I'm in the risk mitigation business.
I'm in the motivation, let's go get it, baby business, okay, so,
One second, with the Bold 100, that's not exclusive to KW, so if you know an agent that wants to participate and be part of that synergy, great opportunity to invite people out.
It's not exclusive to people in both.
correct. It's inclusive, in fact, if you have a business and you wanna build your pipeline, come to Bold 100 on Monday, that's awesome.
Energage came out, everybody seen it?
Yeah.
Sweet, talked about it last week. Here we go, virtual career night, Tina.
Yeah, I did a video today. I'm really excited. We're having a virtual career night, 5:30 PM. So if you know anybody who wants to learn more about getting into real estate, we're gonna have our coaches on. We're gonna go through all the pieces of it. Great info session. So it's everywhere. You should see my face everywhere.
Everywhere.
Oh, it's tonight, the 7th, today is the 7th.
Yeah, it's today. So,
Zoom,
Sweet.
yeah,
zoom in,
let's build your pipeline.
Nicole Asaki,
woo,
Thursday, Lake Country, financial literacy, what do these guys need to know?
Yeah, it's the section of Quantum Leap that's the money portion. So if you want to come to Lake Country 9 AM in person, otherwise I am doing a Zoom December 7th. So I
but
can
Lake
get you
Country
guys
is really right
information.
up the road, and you get so much out of it, especially when Nicole is teaching, so I encourage you, get in the room
On Thursday.
on Thursday, love it.
Chris Ruskowitz,
Is teaching a
One
9
Thing
a.m.
Lies and time blocking?
Yes.
Yes, November
Yes,
17th, stay
Yes, from
tuned.
the one thing, come prepared, bring paper and pencil, and be prepared to have some fun, because there's some fun exercises in this one.
I'm not teaching that one, fun, okay.
Scott has his budget mastermind on Friday the 17th, 1 to 2, and the holiday party is coming up December 1st. On brand and on theme. If you're interested in a hotel room, which I know many people have, well, you know why? We sold out the room block. How do we know we sold out the room block? We had to add more. If you're interested in adding more, or you want a room, it's a good risk mitigation strategy. Get a hotel room or get an Uber. I've seen some of you at the Christmas party. I would recommend you get a hotel room.
Don't get decoupled.
Holiday cocktail party coming up Tuesday, December 12th, 3 to 6, hosted by Crickerbergs.
No hotel room.
No, that is what we utilize Uber. Risk mitigation has tiers of cost. Uber is effective. Okay, here's one thing that I want to hear, want you to pay attention to. Family reunion. Highly, highly, highly recommend. If there was ever a reason to attend it, this would be the reason for attending this year in terms of where the industry is and where the industry is headed. I believe you'll get a lot of return on your investment of time, energy, and talent of attending as it relates to the dialogues that are being had within the industry. Make sense? Highly recommend family reunion this year. I can't enough. Yes.
Oh, just for what it's worth, I didn't go to family reunion last year because flying to Anaheim is expensive, staying in Anaheim is expensive. Flying to Las Vegas, cheap, staying in Las Vegas, cheap. So this is a great year to go, even if you're on a budget.
Important year to go.
Yeah.
Also, for those of you who are having conversations with people outside of KW that you think that this would benefit from, I think KW is a life-changing experience. When people come to these, they get an idea of what we're all about. If you have a guest that you'd like to bring, let me know and we will help get them there. I would love to build your downline and this is a great way to do it. And let's go change some lives.
And Mel Robbins is the keynote speaker this year.
Yes.
Tell me what exactly family reunion is.
Oh,
Great
sure.
question. So it is the industry's largest conference hosted by Keller Williams. Many people, it's open to all companies. And the best way I describe family reunion is it's a choose your own adventure. What I mean by that is There are keynote speeches every morning to start your day that talk about the economic impactors we need to be paying attention to. It talks about the environment in which that we work. I'm sure that there's gonna be a lot of that. There are many keynote speakers as a way in which that how we approach our mindset and how we approach our business. And then typically at Family Reunion, the afternoon is breakout sessions, and that's the choose your own adventure. If Alex wants to work on something very specific or targeted, he goes to breakouts very specific and targeted to him. He may be separate from what Max is focusing on, which is different than Tony's focusing on, which is different than the Shipleys are focusing on. And the best part is that you get to choose your own adventure and craft the agenda based on what it is that you want to work to and for, and how you pour into it is what you get out of it.
Is there an agenda that we can look at before we sign up?
Yes, it's on the Family Reunion website. Events.kw.com is the best place to go look.
Thank you.
Yeah, does that help? Beautiful. Good? All right. Okay, I'm gonna fly through this in the interest of time. You're gonna get this in less than 6 minutes. Okay? And you're gonna get a key theme from me. You wanna know what the key theme is? Here's the biggie.
Decoupling.
Stabilization. Okay, stabilization. Last month I posed the question. We're starting to see some trends within the industry. Are we seeing stabilization within the trends? The good news is, as I say, 1 month is an anomaly, 2 months is a trend. Last month, my question was, are we starting to see stabilization? But I don't quite see it yet as a trend because there wasn't a long enough period. Let's take a look. So, units that are going under contract. In October of this year, there was 1,629 units. It was down 4% versus last year. Now, if you remember the first 9 months of the year, it was down anywhere between 20 to 30%. The fact that we were down 4% this month, and for perspective, in September, we were down 7%, means the trend is improving. Stabilization, units going under contract, okay? Sales absorption rate, percentage of inventory that goes under contract, okay? This is an indication of demand. This year versus last year, it was basically flat. Stabilization, and remind you, it had been going down. Average days on market. This year, there was 31 average days on market in the month of October. That's basically flat to last year because last year was 30 days on market. Mind you, the question I had, and this is why we look at multiple months, in September, we saw 36 days on market in the month of September, which was a significant spike into August. It was an anomaly within the trend. So looking at August at 27 and October in 31, yes, it's going up, but it's not going up as fast as what we saw in September. Again, and it's basically identical to where it was last year at this time of year. So it does, there's an impact of seasonality, stabilization. Next, months of supply of inventory. This year was 2.4 months of supply. Last year was 2.3. Basically, we're at the exact same rate of where we were last year in the fall. Okay? New inventory units, there were 2,222 new units that came onto the market. It was only down 3% October of this year versus October of last year. It was only off by 88 units. Okay? It's a good thing. Mind you, remember, basically from March through August, we were seeing down 20 to 30%. So the fact that we're seeing down 3.8% for the second month in a row, and this is a better trend than what we saw in September. My question is are we starting to see the bottom of the pendulum? I don't know. It's too early. We're only 2 months in, but I like 2 months of the data I've seen so far. Okay. And I like the trend that as we head into Q1. The other interesting thing, and this is units going under contract, 222 versus 1629. What that also means though, then from a total inventory perspective, is total inventory did start to increase in terms of the tide rising. The tide rising at this time of year heading into Q1 of 2024 is actually a healthy thing. That's okay. And when we look at days on market metrics are basically flat to last year. When we look at sales absorption rates are flat to last year. The tide usually rises with the seasonality at this time of year. It's not a bad thing, and it could help us bolster inventory levels as we head into Q1. Cool? Okay, now pricing was the thing where I saw the biggest slowdown in September. And there's good news from a pricing standpoint. In October, the average was 328, the median was 285. October of this year versus October of last year was a 3% appreciation, which is on trend with what we saw in September. So while my concern was that appreciation was slowed pretty substantially, the trend was around 9 to 11%, which last month we saw 3%. To see a second month in a row at 3% means prices are still appreciating and it didn't decelerate any faster. Same thing as it relates to median. Median at 7.5% is on trend with where it was last month at 7%. Okay. The other thing that this is a good reason why you want to pay attention to this slide is you're having your care calls and you're connecting with your databases or you're joining the Bold 100 on Mondays. When you call the client on their home anniversary who just bought their home 2 or 3 years ago and they're saying, hey, how's it going? How's the home? Yada, yada, yada. And then they want to know, the question is always, did they buy at the top of the market? In 2021 to October to today, 2023, they say a 14% increase on either the median or the average. So you get to deliver that news of equity gain and you get to deliver the news that you didn't buy at the peak. Okay. Now, price per square foot's a static measure. In October, sorry for the typo, in October it was $190 a price per square foot. It's up 5% versus what it was in October of 2022. Again, on trend with what we saw from September versus September of last year. So my theme that I'm going to continue to be paying attention to that I posed last month, that I saw this month, and I will be paying attention to as we get into November data is, are we starting to see the market stabilize in terms of where the, effectively, I hate to say this, where the bottom was in terms of transactional units. And I think to myself, if we can get into an environment where it is flat next year, that's a winning environment. Truly is, winning environment. So we'll be paying attention to see what the data says and where we're going. And I would leave you with this. You gotta amplify your intensity and frequency because you gotta be a hunter, not a gatherer. You got 2x your database, you got 3x your activities. Cool? There you go. October data will be sent to you. Any questions, let us know. And it is 1 o'clock on the dot.
And if you need fuel to fuel your journey, there's still lots of pizza left. Make your donation to Milwaukee Homeless Veterans.
And Tina.
And don't forget to make your donation to Chris Ruskowitz via Venmo. So if anybody, I know a couple of you are having. So go to Chris
It's right
or
here.
to.
Christine
Yeah,
Ruskowitz.
I think it's just hard to read.
Yeah.
So, and it's $10 minimum donation.
Yeah, thank you guys. Enjoy, have a great.
You don't know. You don't know.